Around the World Lit Audio. Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. Part 1. Sensei and I. Sections 12 to 18. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest novels ever written, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week, free to listen. Chapter recap. In week 2, the narrator returned to Tokyo and found Sensei's house in a quiet residential street. He met Shizu, Sensei's wife, warm and quietly sad in a way he could not explain. He became a regular visitor through the autumn and into winter. Sensei spoke of loneliness, of trust, of love as a source of danger. He visited a grave alone and said nothing about it. And on a cold December evening he told the narrator, "What I know is not something I can teach you. You will have to learn it for yourself." Part 1. Sections 12 through 18. Part 1. Sensei and I. Sections 12 to 18. Winter became spring. The narrator returned to his family home in the country during the university holidays, returned to his parents, to the house he had grown up in, to the particular quality of provincial life that felt, after Tokyo, both restful and slightly airless. His father was not well. Nothing dramatic, not an illness with a name and a prognosis, but the gradual dimming of a man who had been healthy for decades and was now, quietly and without fanfare, becoming less so. His mother watched his father with the focused attention of a woman who has been watching someone for 40 years, and has learned to read the small signs. The narrator watched both of them and thought about Tokyo. He thought about Sensei. He wrote letters. Sensei wrote back. Short letters, precise, containing more in what they did not say than in what they said. The narrator read them several times, each, turning them over in his mind the way you turn over a stone looking for something underneath. There was always something underneath. He could feel it without being able to name it. He asked, in one letter, about the grave Sensei visited. He asked carefully, obliquely, not wanting to intrude, but genuinely wanting to know. Sensei's reply was brief. He said, "It is a friend, someone I knew when I was young. I go because there is no one else to go." The narrator sat with this for a long time. No one else to go. The phrasing was specific in the way that Sensei's phrasing was always specific, chosen not for effect but for accuracy. The friend had no family willing or able to visit the grave. Or Sensei felt, for reasons he did not share, that the visiting was his responsibility specifically, or both. He wrote back asking nothing further. When he returned to Tokyo in the spring, Sensei seemed pleased to see him, more pleased, perhaps, than he usually allowed himself to seem. There was a quality of relief in the greeting that the narrator noticed and did not comment on. Shizu made tea. The garden had changed since winter, things growing now that had been bare, the light different, the particular quality of a Tokyo spring afternoon filtering through the garden door into the room where they always sat. The narrator said, "You seem well." Sensei said, "I am the same." He said it in a tone that was not dismissive but final, the tone of a man closing a subject that he does not wish to examine too closely. They talked about other things. About the university, about books the narrator had been reading, about the political situation. The Meiji era was ending, or felt like it was ending, the world of their parents giving way to something new that did not yet have a clear shape. Sensei talked about this with the detachment of a man watching a transformation he had no stake in. He said, "The Japan I knew when I was young no longer exists. The Japan that is coming, I do not understand it, and I do not expect to." He said it without bitterness, simply as an observation. The narrator asked, "Does that trouble you?" Sensei thought for a moment. He said, "What troubles me is not the change itself, but the way people change with it. There is a kind of person, I have known several, who is entirely different, depending on the era they inhabit. Who they are changes when the world changes. I find that frightening. I do not know who those people actually are." He paused. He said, "Perhaps that is not a fair observation. Perhaps we all change more than we think." The narrator asked, "Have you changed?" Sensei looked at him. He said, "I have not changed in the ways that matter. The thing that happened to me, that made me what I am, that does not change. It happened and it is there, and it will be there until I die." He stopped. He seemed to realize he had said more than he intended. He picked up his teacup. He looked at the garden. The narrator waited. He had learned, over the months of these visits, that Sensei's silences were not empty. They were full of things he was deciding whether to say. This silence ended without resolution. Sensei put the teacup down and changed the subject, and the narrator let him, because he understood that pushing was not how this worked. What he had been given was enough for now, more than he had been given before. He walked home through the spring evening turning the sentence over in his mind. The thing that happened to me, that made me what I am. Something had happened, something specific, in the past, that had shaped Sensei into the man he was. The withdrawal, the grave, the way he spoke about trust and love as though they were things to be careful with, like blades. The narrator did not know what it was. He knew, now, that it existed. That was different. He began, that spring, to think about his future in a more concrete way. He was finishing his degree. He would graduate. After graduation there would be a life to construct, employment, position, some arrangement of the world around himself that constituted an adult existence. He was 22 and the future felt both immediate and abstract simultaneously, the way futures do when you are standing at their edge. He spoke to Sensei about this. Sensei listened with the focused attention he brought to everything the narrator said, the attention of a man who is genuinely interested, and does not perform interest he does not feel. He said, "What do you want to do?" The narrator said, "I am not sure. Something that uses what I have studied. Something that is honest work." Sensei said, "Honest work. That is a good standard. Not many people apply it." He was quiet for a moment. He said, "You know that I do not work." The narrator said, "I know." Sensei said, "People find this strange. My wife finds it strange, though she does not say so. I have money, enough, from what was left to me. I do not need to work in the practical sense, but the question of whether I should work, whether I have the right to simply exist without producing anything, that question I have not answered to my own satisfaction." He looked at his hands. He said, "I used to think I would do something. When I was young, before what happened, I had plans. Ambitions. The kind of ambitious plans that young men have before they understand the world. Then something happened and the plans went, not gradually, all at once." The narrator said nothing. He waited. Sensei said, "I will tell you about it someday. Not today, but someday. When I think you are ready to hear it, or when I think I am ready to say it. I am not sure which is the correct formulation." He almost smiled when he said this. The narrator said, "I will wait." Sensei looked at him, with an expression the narrator had not seen before on his face. Something that was not gratitude exactly but was in the same territory. The expression of a man who has been offered patience and finds it, at this particular moment, the most valuable thing anyone could offer. He said, "You are a good person. I sometimes think I am not good for you. That your time would be better spent with people your own age, people with futures ahead of them rather than someone like me, who is mostly past." The narrator said, "I don't believe that." Sensei said, "I know you don't. That may be the problem." He stood, which meant the visit was ending. He walked the narrator to the gate. The spring evening was warm, and the street was quiet, and the cherry trees had been and gone, and left the air with that particular post-blossom quality of Japanese spring. Everything green now, everything growing, the extravagance of the flowers over and the patient business of the year beginning. Sensei said, "Come again." The narrator said, "I will." He walked home through the spring evening with the weight of what Sensei had almost said, and had not said, and the promise of what he had said he would say someday, and the particular quality of a friendship that exists mostly in the space between what is spoken and what is understood. He was 22. He did not yet know what the something was that had happened to Sensei. He did not yet know the name of the friend in the grave. He did not yet know why Sensei spoke about love as a danger, and trust as something to be careful with. He knew only that he would keep coming back, and that whatever was waiting at the end of the story Sensei was not yet telling, it was the most important thing he had ever been close to. Chapter Transition. You have reached the end of Part 1, Sections 12 through 18 of Kokoro, by Natsume Soseki. In the next episode, the final weeks of Part 1, the narrator graduates from university. His father's health worsens. He returns to the country. And Sensei, in Tokyo, in his quiet house with his quiet wife and his quiet secret, moves one step closer to the letter that will explain everything. The next episode is available next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new episode arrives every week.